man the jurisdiction over the waterways. He gave man the jurisdiction over the earth and thereby everything in the earth. That's all the minerals, all of the ore, all of the gold, the diamond, all the things that we contemporarily call of any type of value. God gave all of that to man's responsibility. All of the animals that he created. He didn't create any animal that he said, now you're going to be superior to man. And man will have dominion except for you. No, every creature, microbiotic creature, he put under the authority and the responsibility of man. Everything that creeps on the earth, every slug, every worm, every snail, every eagle flying in this. Oh, I can't go above the eagle. Yes, but I gave you authority. I gave you dominion over it. That's why you have eagles in cages and not men in cages. Well, except for that crazy movie, Planet of the Apes, where the apes had risen up and put the men in the cages. Other than that, we see that God gave dominion of the earth and its resources. So if you are walking in a subpar level, if you don't know the dominion that is inside of you, given to you by God, that helps the counterfeit be strong. That helps the counterfeit thrive. Because you're walking in a subpar level. You're walking beneath the creation, beneath the calling of God when that happens. 2 Samuel 6:20 is where we look at characters, because this one of my favorite characters in scriptures at any time, as someone I can learn from. It may be the way that I was raised, or it may be the way that I began to understand my own life. I began to see many things in the life of David. And then through David, I understood how a young person can get right and can then get wrong with God. But if you look at 2 Samuel 6:20, let's do a little bit of a character study here. Examine, and we'll slow down a bit. 6:20, 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 20. I'll read as much as we need for the context. Then David returned to bless his household. Notice what he's doing. And Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How glorious was the king of Israel today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of the handmaids of his servants, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovereth himself." And David said unto Michal, "It was before the Lord which chose me before my father and before all his house to appoint me ruler over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore will I play before the Lord, and I will yet be more vile than thus, and will be base in mine own sight. And of the maidservants which thou hast spoken of them shall I be had in honor." Verse 23. Therefore Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no children, or no child, unto the day of her death. Now, when you reread this, put it in the context. As we say, context is everything. What is going on here? The backdrop is this. The Ark of the Covenant had been lost to Israel for a long period of time. And in its absence, the Ark, for those who are students of the Bible, the Ark represented the presence of God. So for Israel not to have the Ark of the Covenant with them is the same as saying God is not with you. It was taken by the Philistines. Upon its return, it had been with a man called Obed-Edom for a number of years. 3 months to be exact. But for it to come back into Israel proper, David had to amass a group of men to get the priests, those who were designated to carry it, because before they tried to carry it on the ox cart. It moved. A man named Uzzah went to grab it and he was struck dead. It made David afraid. So they sent it aside to have this time of waiting at the house of Obed-Edom to try to work out, how do we get the ark back? We've done something wrong. Yeah, you put it on the wrong cart, but that's a story aside. So when they put it on the right carrying implements, they had the two rods to it, had the priests carrying it as they were originally designed by Moses. They're bringing it back, and a celebration breaks out. In this celebration, David begins to dance. Now remember, he has not been installed primarily as king, but he's being installed, and he's now taking on the kingly role. But you would think in that day as well as now, could you imagine Prime Minister Boris or President Trump beginning to celebrate, getting their jig on and jumping and shouting and twisting around about? It would be on every news channel. It would be on all of the social memes over and over how this is the dignified king of Israel behaving this way. And he's jumping and leaping and flailing. The trumpets are blowing. The drums are beating, and he's letting go. Why? Because he saw God kill a man who touched the ark illegally. He saw the violent reaction, the sovereign reaction of God kill someone dead because they misappropriated the ark. God is not joking. He's not playing. David realized this God, our God, is serious. And now his presence is coming back with us. That is special. That means something. I don't care who's looking. I don't care who's examining my face. I don't care who's judging me or critiquing me. So he just let go and began to dance and celebrate before the Lord. And he threw off the outer garment. And the Bible tells us that Michal was the daughter of Saul. The same Saul who had tried to kill David in the beginning and lost his life. And David replaces Saul as king. Now, this same daughter was given to David originally by Saul when he was alive. Why? Because he killed the giant Goliath. As a reward, he got the daughter of Saul. So she's sitting there stewing in her juices, looking at this man who's taken the place of her father as king. Looking at this man whom she was given to as a prize of warfare, of bloodshed, no choice of hers. And she's boiling on the inside. And the more he danced, I can imagine the more she boiled. This, ladies and gentlemen, gives us a beautiful backdrop into why people create counterfeits of you. They're looking at your face. They're seeing you sitting there or walking there or going there. And something going on inside of them is helping them form a false image of you, which has nothing to do with who you really are, but it helps them in their poisonous environment. We learn through study that psychologically, it's easy for a torturer to torture someone that they have been conditioned to believe deserves it. If I say those persons are animals, this is what happened during the Nazi regime. The Germans were told, you're superior. The Jews are a pestilence. They are vermin. They are the cause of all the misery that we're going through. So a false image can be created, a counterfeit now that gives justification so that when you hurt them or harm them, they deserve it. So she creates this image of the type of king she envisions David to be based upon her own inner workings. I'm telling you, beloved, this thing is lethal. So if someone is creating that counterfeit of you, It doesn't matter what your celebration is about. It doesn't matter how sincere. If we go back and we reread, when she tells him, she uses sarcasm. She says, look at you. You are dancing and you uncovered yourself. What are you saying, Michael? You're saying I was naked? That I exposed myself? We have the images on the screen. I wish those in the audience could see it, the podcast audience could see. But if you look up an ephod, the Bible says that David was wearing an ephod. This is the garment that the priest would normally wear. It's never worn against the skin. It's always worn on top of other garments. The priestly robe at the top is what the Aaronic priesthood would have been wearing, that Moses would have prescribed. So David has draped himself in an ephod. And as he's dancing in celebration, he throws off the outer garment, the top parts. So what is left below, if you look below, is this linen garment is left against his skin. He was not nude. He was not doing a butt-naked dance, as they say. He was not streaking. That would have been lewd and immoral. And our God is holy. So a holy God, and I take this to church with me, a holy God is not going to induce you to expose yourself. And I've seen times in churches where somebody is bucking and flapping and their body parts are on display, and you can't say that that's God. That is not godly. So this expression of himself, that he was dancing with abandon, means he revealed himself as one who was not ashamed to worship God. That is the exposing. He was not acting in the traditional kingly, pompous way. He was acting as a man who had no boundaries on himself. That's another piece of evidence for you, beloved. When you are free in Christ, those who are repressed will create an image of you that is false to say you're out of control. It doesn't take all of that. That person is fake. It's not real. Look at her waving her arms all around. Look at her praising. Look at him over there crying. That's not real. So this expression to God many times will evoke someone to create a counterfeit of you. Oh, he's always crying. Oh, he's always over there. Look at him in his Bible. This comes from individuals who themselves are repressed. They cannot be free. Therefore, they disallow that your freedom is genuine. It is lethal. It is caustic. It is sickening. And even the person who wants to be free, if they're sitting in the company of someone who is bound, they will feel inhibited. Those of you who are listening, who have been to any great church service, you know what it's like when you're sitting next to a cold fish. And worship is going on, and you're feeling the Spirit of God, and the person next to you is dead as ice. And the one to your right, I think that you check his temperature as well. And you say, why am I sitting between these two icebergs? And you want to lift your hand, and they look at you like, why are you stretching your arms? And you're like, Lord, I need to get in the aisle. I need to get out of here so I can praise you, so I can lift my hands. These dead fish are one is holding their ear like you're singing too loud. The other's leaning back and looking. That can come over you to try to create a counterfeit image of you that you shouldn't worship. You shouldn't praise. You shouldn't lift up holy hands. You shouldn't say the name of Jesus. And if you accept it, it becomes your prison. And whereas I would give a test for all those listening, if the way you worship God at home is different than the way you worship God in your local church, you have been bound by a counterfeit image of yourself. Now, I'm not talking about sitting around in your underwear. That's not what I'm saying, because you're at home. I'm saying your expression to God should be the same. If you are free, some persons lift hands, some don't. Some cry out loud, some don't. But if that is your true expression, you should be true to it. But if you are repressed one way or the other, bound